very soon, like in the next month and a half, we will start to hit the banana zone. And this is what happens when you hit the banana zone. Things get absolutely wild, which is the really magical part of why this is the greatest macro trade of all time, is this part. And it's coming. Will it look the same as others? Who knows? Some have been absolutely crazy. Others were more difficult, like the last cycle. But that's usually what happens when we hit altcoin season. From summer and then into fall, things get really, really exciting.
Crypto family, welcome back to the channel. Aaron here from the Bitcoin Bros coming back at you with another cryptocurrency video today. That was Raoul telling you that over the next month or so, we're going to see some huge gains for the altcoins potentially. So get ready for that. And we're also going to be checking out some things he thinks about what's coming for the rest of the year into 2025 later in today's video. But just want to go over a couple of charts here. This is the Bitcoin dominance chart here that we've been looking at. This actually lines up with what Raoul was saying earlier in that clip. We can see Bitcoin dominance could potentially be coming down here going into the summer, which would potentially lead for that altcoin season that people are looking for, where altcoins outperform BTC. We actually posted this over in our Patreon. We have exclusive content over there. We have an exclusive community. The link for that will be in the comment section below and also the description below. If you want to think about joining it, there are different levels. You guys can check that out. But also checking out this tweet here. We just had the Bitcoin halving yesterday. So what happens next for Bitcoin after the halving? Historically, we've seen massive moves to the upside for Bitcoin after the halving, which has led to major altcoin seasons, major crypto blast-offs. A lot of cryptos doing 10, 20, 30, even 100 X's from their lows. We were telling you guys during that dip we saw about a week ago, you should be picking up crypto at these levels because it could be a great time to get in, especially what's coming for the rest of 2024 and going into 2025. Bitcoin potentially hitting new all-time highs, doing a 2 to 3x from here is where we see it going into 2024 and early 2025. So with all that in this next clip, Raoul is discussing where he sees this crypto market going in the short term and the long term and the catalyst he sees coming. So let's go ahead and check that out. Hit the like button if you found any value. Let's play the clip.
It will be the fastest accumulation of wealth the world has ever seen in the shorter period of time. If we go and generate 90 odd trillion in wealth in the next 10 years. To put that number in perspective, because we're all getting bored of such big trillion numbers, that is, the S&P 500 is $50 trillion. That is the accumulated worth of all the companies that have succeeded and failed and grown over time, driven by the US economy, over the last 100 years, is 50 trillion. It's double that. And you're going to do it in 10 years. It's a global wealth shock on a scale never seen before in history. It's like all of the baby boomers coming in and saving all at the same time in 10 years, their entire life savings, plus all of China coming in from the WTO as that opened and the wealth that generated, plus India opening up, plus all the Russians added together and probably doubled. Right, this is the scale of what could happen here. Assume Raoul is a moron. It's always a good thing to do. Maybe I'm wrong. Discount me by 50%. Discount me by 75%. It's still at 25 trillion. It's one of the largest increases in global wealth the world will have ever seen. This is why it's the big macro opportunity. This is why so many of my friends and colleagues, famous macro people, have just walked out of the old world into the new world, because it's like, this is the big one. Macro people look for the big trade. You know, it was the subprime crisis, it was all of that. But the returns coming out of this space dwarf all of those opportunities added together. Gone are the days where an incredible macro year would be Paul Tudor Jones up 100%. People in crypto get that regularly. We're also starting to get the rate cutting cycle coming in. Now, rate cutting doesn't actually go into the liquidity, but it's part of the things that show you that the central banks want to move towards liquidity. We've just started the cutting cycle. Started in Latin America with Brazil. We're starting to see it across Europe. We're starting to see it elsewhere. And the next 2 years will be the feature of cutting rates. Sure, maybe rates don't go as low as they were before. Maybe there's only a few rate cuts. If you remember, or many of you won't, but 1994 was the bond market blow up. The Fed raised rates a lot. Everybody blew up. Banks went under. Very similar to 2022. 1995, everybody expected the Fed to cut rates several times. They actually only cut them twice, 75 basis points in 2 goes, and then went on hold for years, essentially. Now, most pundits in the market say, well, if they don't cut rates as much as the market was expecting, it's going to be terrible. Answer was, back then, the stock market rose 150% before super accelerating on a rate cut in 1998, and we got the NASDAQ bubble at the end of that. So I don't see any issue. Markets like stability. And if they cut rates a bit, because J. Powell needs to, they're going to have to figure some other way of doing the interest payments, of paying the interest payments, and what will happen is markets will continue to rise. It's liquidity. So this is why I think this cycle runs between now, and it started in 2022, sometime in 2025, somewhere probably towards the latter end. Normally, the crypto markets end in December, maybe it comes a bit sooner. We'll have to be on alert for that. But basically, this is how we see liquidity playing out. Again, don't expect perfection. I'm not expecting to be perfect, but it'll give you a pretty decent idea. You don't need a massive liquidity cycle either. You don't need 2020 to drive these things up. You just need liquidity to be positive and stay positive for markets to work their magic. Now, those forecasts, if I use the log channel of global liquidity, using the everything code forecast doesn't look unreasonable. Doesn't look unreasonable at all. Now, it might not get to 2 standard deviations. Maybe it's 1 standard deviation like it got to in 2017. Remember the crypto market then? That was la la land. 2013, 1 standard deviation, a complete wild crypto market. So again, you don't need the massive liquidity. You just need liquidity. And so that's where we think it might go. Let's see how it plays out. So in a nutshell, this space is going from 2.7 trillion in market cap. It'll get to something like 10, 12 trillion in this cycle. It'll then have an inevitable bear market. Whether it's as big as the previous bear markets or not, we can't tell. We've now got new participants putting in their 401k money every 2 weeks. Maybe they all panic out. Nobody knows. But it doesn't matter.